You've got some interesting skills for a reporter.
It's been about 4 years since we walked in the shoes of Frank West in the original Dead Rising. Now players take the role of Chuck Green, who has a much more sympathetic reason for surviving the zombie apocalypse. Chuck's daughter has been infected with the zombie virus, and he's been keeping her alive by using a vaccine named Zombrex. To fund all of this, he signs up for the zombie slaying show called Terror is Reality. Almost immediately after Chuck finishes the competition, all hell breaks loose and the city is flooded with zombies. This forces Chuck and Katie into an underground shelter with no help from the military for 3 days. The worst part of it all is that Katie has run out of Zombrex, and the only way to find some is in a city flooded with the living dead. Things go from bad to worse when Green is framed for being the reason the zombies were released in the city. So it's up to you to fight off anything in your way to keep your daughter alive and clear your name.
The ladies were a little disappointed in your performance tonight, Chuck. But you must get that a lot.
For those of you that have played the original Dead Rising, you're in for some familiar territory here, while new players will have to get used to the style of gameplay that is in store for you. Let's get this issue out of the way first. If you don't like restarting levels constantly, this probably isn't going to be the game for you. Dead Rising 2 is all about repetition in the long run, but the good zombie slaying in hilarious ways kind. Just be aware that the game structure takes a lot of getting used to, due to constantly traveling back and forth between locations before time runs out. The controls are a bit cumbersome at first and may take a while to get used to. This is not based on the button placement but more on the stiff movements of Chuck himself. He runs slowly and his animations will leave you open to a lot of attacks. There will also be moments in boss fights where you will wonder why it is hard to evade. This is in part to the way that the leveling system works in the game, where you gradually unlock key moves as you lay waste to zombies. It's a good thing that Chuck's way of earning points is much more interesting than Frank's was. Green is the MacGyver of Zombieland who can piece together a near endless amount of weapons. As a matter of fact, this is what makes the game the most enjoyable. Running around picking up weapons and searching for combo cards so you can make a ridiculous gadget. It can be something ludicrous like a toy helicopter with a machete attached to the rotors, or something a bit simpler and effective like a baseball bat filled with nails. Regardless of what weapon you use, it will just lead you on a never-ending path to see what they all do, since the more elaborate the weapon, the more points you will earn from using it. However, this is limited by the combo cards you've earned in your outing. If you find two weapons that go well together before earning a combo card, you will make a scratch card of the weapon, which is significantly less points earned for killing zombies with that weapon. I don't know why this was put in place in honesty, since it penalizes you for researching various combinations on your own. There have also been some improvements in the survivor system. Wait, that's underselling it a bit. The survivor system has been vastly improved from before. To say that the original Dead Rising survivors were nothing but worm food waiting to happen is an understatement of epic proportions. In Dead Rising 2, you can ignore the survivors and go about your way. They'll follow closely and actually give a damn about their lives. If you give them a weapon, they'll fight off waves of zombies and do their best not to slow you down. The only issue that players will encounter is loading a new area, which requires Chuck to wait for survivors to be at least 5 feet away from him before they can follow. Most of the time, they'll be 15 to 20 feet away when you exit to a new zone, which of course means you'll have to go back inside and get them just so they can run like 5 or 10 feet next to the door, which really is ridiculous since you can basically outrun them for an entire level without problems. Honestly, this isn't the real issue when it comes to backtracking for survivors. As a matter of fact, this might be Dead Rising 2's biggest flaw as a whole, which is the extremely long loading times that you have to sit through every time you leave an area. It can take Chuck up to 10 to 15 seconds to travel from one place to another, which can be really frustrating in a game where you're constantly jumping from place to place rescuing survivors. Graphics wise, you won't see much of a change between Dead Rising 1 and 2. So for those that have never played the original, this one looks like a game that is 4 years old. The biggest draw to Fortune City over Willamette is the amount of zombies on the screen. No matter where you look, your screen will be flooded with hundreds of undead looking to devour your brains. The major flaw to having so many on screen comes in the form of constant performance hits. That, and it seems that the camera just likes any close-ups of fire effects at all. When things go bump in the night in Dead Rising 2, you'll be sure to pay attention to it, as the game provides an ample ambience while you're avoiding the flails of zombie hordes. The cast of characters may not be award-winning material, but they do a solid job for a B-list storyline. In fact, the most impressive characters are the insane psychos that Chuck will have to defeat in his travels.
Sit, relax. Antoine will make you dinner.
That's not even mentioning the splatter factor of each weapon tearing through those undead flesh eaters. When you put all the information together on Dead Rising 2, it turns out to be a solid sequel to the original game. Where it makes improvements over the faults of the first game, it goes on to make some glaring problems of its own. It's good that the core game mechanics continue to hold up so well after 4 years, with plenty of hours to spend roaming about searching for survivors, combo cards, and leveling up. You have at least 10 to 14 hours to complete the normal campaign, but that can go up significantly while looking for all the survivors and secrets. If you add in the terrorist reality modes and the addition of having another player with you in co-op, you have a solid B game on your hands here. It scales things up for the series, but it creates some jarring issues of its own. But make no mistake, if you're a fan of slaying the undead, you'd be hard pressed to find a more amusing game than Dead Rising 2.
You may now kiss the bride.